Hi everyone, we're going to do a short summary of some of the best works and commentaries on Acts. First up, hot off the press, N.T. Wright's book, The Challenge of Acts. I like this, this is good. It's not a commentary per se, it gives you an overview of the contents and it explores some of the major themes. So it's kind of like a walk through the main highlights of Acts. It's pretty good. It's only 140 pages, so you can read this in a couple of afternoons or one 17-hour flight to Istanbul if you're so inclined. It's a good, and this is something I recommended to people who were joining me on the study tour I recently did in Turkey and Greece. Something I recommended to lay people for a good summary of the Book of Acts, what it's about, and some of the peculiar highlights. As if you're a tourist through Turkey, Syria, Greece, a similar kind of touristy go through the Book of Acts. That's what I'd recommend. But what about some shorter commentaries on the Book of Acts? Something that's a little bit more robust than the Challenge of Acts from Wright, but something's a short commentary you might want to work through. I grew up kind of using I. Howard Marshall's little Acts commentary in the Tyndall series. That's great. He really did get a lot through that. At a similar level, there is David Williams' book on the Book of Acts in an older series. David Williams taught at Ridley College many years ago, now of blessed memory. But yeah, there's still some good stuff in here as well that I recommend. In addition to that, there is the Acts of the Apostles, a commentary, a somewhat standalone commentary by James Dunn. This is good because, Dunn was a brilliant scholar. He worked a lot on historical Jesus, Paul, but his early work really was on the Spirit in Luke, Acts, and other parts of the New Testament. And, this really is a pretty good volume that in terms of, detail and conciseness gives you the right balance. Look, there's other commentaries of a medium level I could recommend. Beverly Gaventer, I don't have one on hand. Hers is pretty good too. I like that. Willie James has also got one written largely out of the Black church tradition, and thankfully, Craig Keener has got an even smaller one, which he co-authored with Robert Menzies. I haven't seen that yet, but it's coming out next year in a Pentecostal series. What about the more critical commentaries, the sort of the real deep dive ones? Well, there's C.K. Barrett's 2 volumes in the ICC. That is pretty good. That's kind of a lifetime distillation of research, and he's representing, I think, some of the best stuff, particularly out of 20th century studies of the New Testament. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff on John's Gospel, Paul's letters, but he made a lot of forays into Luke and Acts as well. So his ICC volume is worth checking out. What has just come out, but I haven't got a copy yet, is Steve Walton's first volume in the Word Biblical Commentary series. Now, Steve Walton, I think, is one of the best Luke Acts scholars of our day. He's been working on this volume for years. He's been doing Luke and Acts for a long time as well, especially the Book of Acts. He's got a great stuff. Definitely keep an eye out for that one, and that will be one that is definitely, I think, worth getting as well, because that's going to be really erudite. I think it's going to be 3 volumes, the whole series in the end. Won't be as big and massive as Craig Keener, but I still think it'll be a very decent, a very detailed work, and it'll be interacting with some of the latest scholarship as well. A lot of students do this in course in Greek. You do stuff in Greek. So I like Scott Kellam's study of the Greek text. This is more than a passing guide. It is really a commentary on the nature of the Greek in Acts. Tells you how it's used. So it's good if you're wanting to exegete Acts in Greek. That's a good one. The other one I use, and this probably would just be my favorite amongst these, would be Michael Parsons and Martin Cooley in the Baylor Handbook. I think that's a very good series, one I recommend. In addition to that, Eckhard Schnabel does have a good one in the Zondervan Exegetical Commentary as well. I've used that a little bit. I don't mind it. Like, most of these commentaries are not commentaries proper. They kind of apply a lot of attention just to going through the Greek and explaining the words. Schnabel does a little bit of both. He does a lot on the Greek text, but he also goes a little bit more into the commentary general. So he's kind of like, a bit of a halfway house. In terms of preachers' commentaries, the number one for me is the Dean Pinter's in the Story of God Bible commentary. That's my number one recommendation to preachers. Adjith Fernando in the old Nivac series wasn't bad either, but two volumes I really do like and I do recommend to students. One is by my good friend Tony Merida. He's got an exposition on the Book of Acts. This is all about exalting Jesus in Acts. So yeah, that's a pretty good series. I think this is a good one to use for preachers. But also another one by one of my favorite New Testament scholars in the US is David Garland. I mean, anything David writes, I find is always worth reading and looking up and getting into. And this series has got a pretty good format. Sadly, I think the series as a whole has been retired, but this I think was one of the standout volumes in the series. Now we get to the main event. I mean, if you're doing an exegetical course in the Book of Acts, maybe you're majoring on the English text, what are the books that you should be going through? So these are the kind of standard texts. Well, one I'll recommend to you is from a series I edit with Craig Keener called the New Covenant Commentary series. And this is a volume where we brought together two Korean scholars. One is Pentecostal, one is Presbyterian, but you have to guess which one is which. I'm not going to tell you. So this is written out of the Korean context, although they've both, I think, got British PhDs. And it's pretty good. It's two volumes, and they do a good job expositing the text, giving a good summary, interacting with scholarship. So this one, it hasn't got as much attention or airtime as I think it deserves, but I think this is a very useful volume, and it goes through the text, does a great job. Does what an Acts commentary is meant to do. There is, of course, also Craig Keener's more readable sized volume. This is a kind of a condensed summary of his uber mega massive Acts library. But if you want the kind of Clifford's Notes version, there's this volume, and it's pretty good. It's detailed enough to give you the main sort of highlights, but it's not as encyclopedic or hefty as his massive Acts work. I mean, this would be better for an exegetical level. He does have that shorter volume coming out with Robert Menzies. I think that's going to be even shorter, I imagine, and more condensed. But that would mean Craig now has like 3 Acts commentaries, and I can barely imagine writing one, since Acts is like 28 chapters. It's massive, but yeah, that might be the first place you would go to if you want to get some Craig Keener, if you don't want to get the massive series there. Also good, and what is the number one ranked commentary on the Biblical Commentaries website is Darrell Bock's Acts commentary in the B and C and T series. This is pretty good. Darrell is a well-established Lucan scholar. He's done, a lot of work on the Gospel of Luke, Jesus and the Gospels. But this is still a pretty good volume, and it's probably number one for a reason, because Darrell combines very good exegetical insights with sobriety of judgment, very good scholarship, kind of explains some of the details. I mean, he doesn't come out as being very theologically partisan as well. So that's probably the best-selling Acts commentary around these days. There's also David Peterson's in the Pillar series. It's very popular in Australia. I haven't used it myself. I just don't have a copy. But I've heard good things about that in Australia. But now I'll tell you what, at the moment, and I'm pretty up and down about what my favorite commentary in every given book is on any day. My number one book at the moment for an Acts commentary is Patrick Schreiner's. I like Patrick Schreiner. He's like a young Al Pacino. He needs more airtime. So this is a good one. I really do enjoy it. He knows his stuff. He's very up on scholarship. It's very readable, very useful. This would probably be the number one book I would recommend for a single volume commentary on Acts. Certainly if you're doing it at an undergraduate level or upper level undergraduate, maybe even at an MDiv level as well. But this is the one I'm really enjoying reading through as I prepare for some of my own stuff going through Acts. So yeah, it's pretty useful. It's pretty good. And yeah, that's probably my number one pick at the moment for an exegetical course on Acts. But let me give you something slightly outside the box. A book on Luke and Acts that I really like. Irony, not my own. It's Bruce Longnecker's The Lost Letters of Pergamum. It's now in its second edition, And, you know, I read this years ago, and it's like a fictional correspondence between two figures. But it kind of explains some of the major themes that you get in Luke and Acts, and trying to explain why Acts would look and sound a little bit weird or strange in the ancient world to people from the elite Greco-Roman upper class, if you like. I am not an emotional man. My wife calls me the world's only living heart donor. But this is a book that did make me weep a little bit towards the end. It is a very good read, informative, even like I said, even a bit moving. If I was wanting to teach a course on Acts to in a secular university where you can't assume that people know anything about Christianity, this is actually was what I would set as the textbook to get them to do it. And I think this would have a very interesting effect on readers. So, I mean, look, there's so many other books, you know, I could talk about. There's so many other studies and theologies of Acts. You know, go to the Bible commentary, you know, best commentaries website. You can see even more. But these are basically the ones I've come across in my various travels and the ones I've found the most useful. So maybe you'll find them useful too. And I need to give the final mandatory plug to my own book, A Bird's Eye View of Luke and Acts. It's a course, not a commentary, but it is the attempt to explore many of the key historical issues, the theology, the themes, the main narrative movements across Luke and Acts, and why it's such an important corpus within the New Testament. I mean, Luke Acts makes up a whopping 28% of the New Testament. I mean, Paul's epistles are only 24%, but Luke and Acts is like 28% of the New Testament. So Luke and Acts is something you really should know about and work through if you're interested in the New Testament. And I've probably given you a massive list of resources there you can work through. But yeah, I hope you found that useful. Hope that helps you stimulate a few things that you might want to read if you want to get more into the book of Acts. I'm Mike Bird. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out a whole bunch of other videos that we have on the channel. Until next time, God bless you and take care.